Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now this is a video that I was going to do for the last 4 months, but every single time I'm about to do it, something comes up, a new iPhone's released, a new iPod is released, some Android phone, whatever the case is. I'm a mastermind at coming up with excuses so I could just keep going. But if you guys don't know, I'm one of the best gamers in the world right now. I'm number one on Twitch, number one on literally every single thing. Bill Gates called me the other day, he was like, bro, you gotta chill out. You're killing the servers right now by how good you are. So not to flex it or anything, but that's what no, I'm totally joking, guys. I'm not a gamer at all. I don't even game. I don't even mobile game that much. But one thing I am obsessed with is looking at older technology. That I talk a lot about phones on this channel, but I always loved and appreciate gaming consoles, and it's just the process and evolution of something like an Xbox 360 to an Xbox One X, what we have now, or even a Nintendo Switch to a Nintendo from a Nintendo Wii or whatever. I love seeing the progression of every single technology, and the Xbox 360 is such a crazy piece of technology. It's such a staple, and not even just the gaming market, but just in electronics overall. Even in pop culture, any movie you watch, any song, any whatever, every single music video, there was always some Xbox 360 there, or PlayStation 3, whatever the case is. And I'm going on such a tangent, but we're going to look at the Xbox 360, see how it holds up in 2019. Now, like I said, I'm not the biggest gamer. I don't really have too much experience with the 360. I think I've always had one though since I was about 15 or 16. I used to play Halo 3, but even at that time, I was not that big of a gamer. I would just play with my siblings or something like that. But now looking at the Xbox 360, the original one actually came out in 2005, so it's actually over 14 years old, which is so crazy. And this is actually the successor to the original Xbox, which I also actually own, and I have not yet done a review on it. So if you guys want to see it, if this video gets 30 likes, I'll go ahead and drop. Obviously, I'm going to drop it anyway, but I'll try to drop it as soon as possible. And at the time of its release, its main competitors were the PlayStation 3 and the Nintendo Wii. Now, we all know the Nintendo Wii was the biggest one at the time, but still the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 were going head to head, and there were pros and cons for both those consoles. Even the Nintendo Wii, there's a lot of cons with it as well, I'll be honest, but I love the Wii. I like it so much. Now with the Xbox 360, there were different types and variants of that specific console, but I'll get into that in a minute. But looking outside, I'm pretty sure everyone has seen an Xbox 360. I'm sure you've seen one somehow, some way. Even if you don't think you've seen one now because you're watching the video. But on the front, you have the power button, you have the CD slot, and you have 2 USB ports, which is really cool if you want to connect to some controllers to charge it. You don't have to go wind out to the back. You can go straight up, connect them to the front, which is so cool. On the top, you have the option of an expandable memory. You can go ahead and put it, I don't know what those things are called, hard disk or whatever it is. You guys can leave them down in the comment section or whatever, but you have the ability to add those on top to increase your memory and install more games on it. On the back, you have the AC port, you have the HDMI port, you have Ethernet, and you have another USB port and an AC port. I think I said AC port twice, but you have a lot of connectivity ports through this thing, which is really cool. Actually, it was an AV port, that's what it was. So that kind of wraps up the outside. I mean, physically, it does look a bit dated for sure, like I said, but compared to the Xbox One X and PS4, it's definitely a dated machine, but it still cleaned itself up. And I think compared to the original Xbox, it definitely looks much, much better. It does not look like a horrible, ugly looking console, even though it was released 14 years ago. It's really a good looking thing. Now, in my opinion, one of the best things about the Xbox 360 was definitely the controller. In my opinion, I think this is my favorite type of lineup of controllers ever. Now, I like the PlayStation 4 controllers and the PlayStation 3 controllers. I think those feel really good, but it's something about the 360s. It was it was so comfy. It felt super premium, and it offered rechargeable batteries too, unlike the Wii's controller on stock. Now you can go and buy the additional rechargeable batteries, whatever, but bro, I'll tell you, removing the batteries on that Wii controller and finding new ones, you had to go to your TV remote, take out the batteries from there and put them in. It was the most annoying thing ever. On the Xbox 360, they were rechargeable, which is so cool. I love that so much. Now that pretty much covers up everything on the outside. Now actually turning on the Xbox 360, you had the familiar boot up screen, you had many different options, and it honestly felt like a phone interface than anything else, which is really good thing. Windows operating system and Windows Mobile kind of was merged in with this, and it gave up that same vibe, especially Windows Mobile. If you guys don't know, that was the operating system that Windows made for their mobile devices, and that was not a bad, I wouldn't say that was a horrible OS, but they definitely didn't utilize it for the best of the capability. I feel like they could have done way better at it. But with these home screens, you were able to manage pretty much everything you want to about your console from your 360. And ultimately, the main thing you're going to do with your Xbox 360 is play games. And the game selection for this thing was not only a huge collection, but the graphics were probably the best at that time. And even now, they're still very good in my opinion. you had tons of different games. You had all those Halo games, you have Call of Duties, Forzas, and those were just the popular ones. There's still like so many different games for this thing. There's like third party homebrew games, whatever the case is. And you guys probably know more about this than I do, especially in terms of the game selection, since many of you watching probably owned one and you guys probably used it way more than I did. But it's definitely a crazy thing, man. And on top of that, they did have like a game store built in, so you could go and download the games if you want to straight from your Xbox, which back in 2005, now I don't know if it was released in 2005, but over time, 10, 15 years ago, that's a really cool and awesome feature. And I remember one of the first games I ever downloaded from my 360, I think was Halo 3, and I installed it straight onto that hard disk thing up top. And the thing was that they weren't free, you had to pay for them obviously, but you can go to GameStop or Best Buy or whatever the case, get a Microsoft card, load up that card through your Xbox store and be able to install games that you bought from the Xbox store, which is so awesome. So it stopped you from having to go to the store every time to download games and to get games and get them from your machine. And so that was a really cool thing. Now, the thing I liked most about the Xbox 360 was that not only was the game selection pretty big, like I said, but the graphics were awesome. The graphics were crazy. Literally, when I'm playing Halo 3, even still, whenever I casually play it, I don't play it at all, but like when I even look at gameplay and like other games of Xbox 360, I'm like, bro, this console is timeless in terms of the game graphics of it. It's a crazy console, and it really does deserve all the praise that it got. And one of the most interesting things about the Xbox 360, which some of you guys might not even know, it brought the Xbox Live with it, which is a way for you to go and gameplay online with, other friends or whatever. And it pretty much allowed better communication between you and your buddies and whatever the case was. But at that time in 2005 and a little bit later, this console was pretty much given a lot of praise about how it popularized digital media and online gaming with Xbox Live, which is so cool. Like, you wouldn't think that. You would just assume, like I would assume, it's probably been out even before the 360 was released. And it kind of was a little bit, but it didn't come to the broader sense in like the broader community, unlike when the Xbox Live was released, and that pretty much took it to another level. But all is not perfect with the Xbox 360. Now, compared to competitors, it did lack some features and it even had some issues. Now, it lacked native Wi-Fi, so it did have the Ethernet port in the back, and you could buy an adapter that allowed you to connect to wireless internet from your Xbox 360, but that means you would have to go and like buy a separate thing and install or whatever. And versus like the PlayStation 3 and Nintendo Wii, which had Wi-Fi built in, that was kind of a step backwards, I mean, it wasn't necessarily a step backwards, it just didn't have it, which is such a bad thing in my opinion. But eventually they learned and they added it in, but definitely was a very strange thing. I feel like they could have added it in, but what are we going to do? Go back in time and fix it? You know what I mean? Now, the biggest issue that plagued the Xbox 360 would definitely be the red ring of death, which was super annoying. I actually had like 3 Xbox 360s. They all didn't work fully, but they went through that. They went through the red ring of death, and you either had to manually fix it or you just had to get a new one, and it was super annoying. It was one of the most annoying things ever. I don't really know what caused the issue, but there were some workarounds. Like, I knew there was a way that you can like a cotton swab in between the fan and make the fan stop working, and it will temporarily work for like a while until you turn it off, and then it would keep going or something. I don't really remember what it was, but the main way to fix it was to actually go and get it professionally fixed. I think you had to swap out something. I really don't even know what happened. I think it was something to do with the fans, overheating the machine or something, but it was definitely a weird thing, and that made a lot of people upset, and, rightfully so. That's your console. You don't want it broken or something like that. So the red ring of death was a crazy thing. The PlayStation 3 also had an issue. I think it was the yellow light of death, and I think the Nintendo Wii also had issues too. So it's not just like the Xbox 360 was the outlier. It's not like this one had the most amount of problems, but that one was a huge problem that affected a lot of people. Now, ultimately, this is what I'll tell you, man. I love the Xbox 360. I don't really have anything to hate about it. I did own one, like I said, but it definitely wasn't the most used console that I ever owned or whatever, but it definitely means a lot to the gaming community. I know a lot of people who still use a Xbox 360. I even have people on my Snapchat, on the simple Alpaca Snapchat, that like fans of mine, and they snap me all the time, and they're always playing. They snap me things of like their older technology, and I get a lot of mostly phones, to be honest. Obviously, you guys know that, but I get here and there, I'll get like gaming consoles, and people will snap me like their old Xbox 360s. I've even had some people snap me their old like original Xboxes, which is so cool. But the 360 is one of those things that I see all the time. So I know a lot of you guys own that console. I know a lot of you guys, still play it. Maybe it's your only console, whatever, this and that. So what I'll tell you is, man, I appreciate you. I love the Xbox 360, and I think I didn't hit on the models, but there was the arcade version, which was the base model, and you also had the Xbox Elite model as well, which was the black one, which was actually really cool, and I was super jealous when people had those. So maybe I'll go ahead and review those too, and that was kind of like the biggest and best one at the time. Eventually the other Xbox came out, and then the Kinect came out, and all those different things. But I love the Xbox 360. You know, if you don't own one, I would just recommend buying it. I mean, they're super cheap now. You can definitely get one with like a bunch of accessories for probably like $50-$60 to be honest. But if you do have one and you've owned one for a while, please let me know your experience with it. Let me know how you've owned it, how you've been taking care of it. Have you had any issues with it, the red ring of death, any other issues with it? Let me know in the comment section below. I will definitely be reading the comments. I want to see what you guys have to say about your experience with it. But that is pretty much it, man. If you guys have any other questions or anything, leave it down in the comment section below. Hit that like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys could hit that. Also, check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel. All those things are linked down below. I'd really appreciate it if you guys could check it out. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.